From the 11 Alive studios, this is The Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Hey, good morning. And for the first time in 6 weeks, we began this Sunday morning talking about the government shutdown in past tense.
President Donald Trump signed legislation late Wednesday night that funds the government through the end of January. But that means in a little more than 2 months, we could be seeing this back and forth play out again, as funding for most federal agencies will run out at midnight on January 30th. In the most recent legislation, 8 Senate Democrats broke with their party to advance this funding bill Monday night, which set up passage in the House. All 14 members of Georgia's delegation in the U.S. House voted along party lines. Georgia's 2 senators, both Democrats, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, they voted against the bill, calling for a continued fight for health care subsidies. Those Affordable Care Act tax credits set to expire at the start of next year, and there's no guarantee they will be extended. A majority of Democrats wanted that guarantee in the spending bill, but Republicans would not budge. The deal sets a vote in the Senate for mid-December on an extension, but its outcome is uncertain.
That's right. And with those subsidies still up in the air, I spoke with 2 Georgia lawmakers in the House, Representative Nikema Williams, a Democrat from Atlanta, and Republican Representative Austin Scott from Tifton. And we talked about whether Democrats and Republicans can find any common ground on making health care more affordable for all Georgians. Has there been any effort at all to try and decrease the cost of health care in general, not extra coverage from the government because the prices are high, but nipping the bud as to why the prices are high? Yes, ma'am.
That's how you reduce the cost. That's by making sure that you don't have sick people who can't afford health insurance because they're too poor going to the ER, raising costs. You have to have a system where wealthy people and sick people are in one pool. That was something that my Republican colleagues pushed back against, having everyone insured when we were negotiating the Affordable Care Act. And so this is a system that they created, but now they're against it. They've always been against the Affordable Care Act, but I am waiting on their plan. I support, again, Medicare for all so that you don't have a system of where only the people that can afford it or only sick people are left out, and that raises costs for everyone. So what we need to do is come to the table and negotiate something that gets all Americans the care that they need.
What would those measures need to look like from Democrats for you to agree to move forward?
It's got to put competition back into the market. It's got to allow more health insurance companies that are small and mid-sized companies to come into the business to put pressure on the large companies. If you only allow multi-billion-dollar corporations into that market, you're never going to have competition for those multi-billion-dollar corporations. And so, we'll look at all solutions. The bottom line is we've had a very serious problem with the cost of health care in the United States of America. It is the cost of insurance is relative to the cost of health care. We pay more in this country than any other industrialized country does for health care. And so I think it is transparency and cost. I think it is consumer choice. And that consumer choice means that there's got to be competition in the insurance market.
Now, 2 more Georgia lawmakers with a role in controlling the destiny of these subsidies are Buddy Carter and Mike Collins.
They are both Republicans. They are both in the House, and they are both running for Senate. We talked with both this week. We begin with Congressman Buddy Carter, who says he is no fan of the Affordable Care Act, but he's also not ruling out supporting its subsidies in the short term.
Is this a situation where you think Republicans should extend the ACA subsidies for a year or 2 years as you work on a more long-term replacement that you want?
Well, the reality is that we probably are going to have to extend them in order to work on this. But look, we passed, or we came very close to passing a bill, the American Health Care Act. All we got to do is dust it off and then work from there. And that's a start for us. And that wouldn't take much time at all. We could actually get something done in that period of time. But again, we cannot continue with this Unaffordable Care Act.
Representative Mike Collins shared Carter's frustration with the Affordable Care Act and acknowledged that, unlike in the Senate, a vote on the subsidies in the House is not a guarantee.
If I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is that the House has made no comparable promise to hold an up or down vote on these subsidies. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, you're exactly correct. That is a deal that the Senate put together, and they said they would take it up before the end of the year. So it was not included in the CR.
If the Senate does hold this promised vote and it passes a bill to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies as they're currently written, would you, when that bill came to the House, support it also?
If that comes over to the House, you're going to see a number of amendments. You're going to see the House put their version on it too. So it's one of those things. If it's such a hypothetical thing, and I never like to go off of ifs. What I want to do is be a part of the discussion so that we can fix Obamacare. Obamacare has been a disaster. Everybody knows it. If it was so affordable, then the Democrats, we wouldn't have to continue looking at these subsidies.
If you had your way, what would the solution look like?
I think at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we have a marketplace out there where people have more choices and they have more control over their health care. You do that and you're going to see prices come down.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has been a vocal critic of the House being out of session during the duration of this shutdown, and she's criticized Republicans and Republican leadership for that. Do you share her criticism? Do you think the House should have been in session over these last 6 weeks or so?
Here's what else. I'm as frustrated as Marjorie Taylor Greene has been, because the fact is that we were getting so much done for the American people, and that was stopped, and it was stopped needlessly. And we shouldn't have had this shut down for 40 days. It should never have been shut down. And at the end of the day, we're back to work now, and we're going to get back on track. Yeah, it's going to take some extra hours. I have no problem with long hours. I enjoy it. But we can get this thing back on track and we can catch back up and make sure that we continue delivering for the American people so that we can make the American people feel safer and make things more affordable again.
But could you have been working on some of those issues during the shutdown? The Senate was still in session. Couldn't the House have been working on those issues as well?
Well, the thing is, though, we did our job in the House. We passed a clean CR. To do regular order, we needed to be back open. And the Senate, all they had to do was pass the clean CR that they had voted on 13 times. So when the Senate shut it down, we had no other options.
Time now for our politics roundtable. Today we have Republican strategist Deanna Harris. She serves as managing partner at Midnight Rider Consulting, and she is the former Republican nominee for Georgia House District 41. Jake Orvis is the co-founder of First Edition Strategies, a communications firm based in Atlanta, and before that he was the longtime campaign manager for Congresswoman Lucy McBath. And from Georgia Public Broadcasting, politics reporter Sarah Callis. She is the Capitol correspondent for the GPB show Lawmakers. Jake, I want to start with you because we know that there's a lot of finger pointing, but in reality, it did take Democrats coming across breaking party lines to open the government back up. We're also seeing some infighting on the Republican side. Marjorie Taylor Greene not happy with how her colleagues were. But let's take the Democratic approach first. What do you get from all of this? Is this a win for Democrats or Republicans here?
The way I see the shutdown is that Democrats said, we need to keep premiums from doubling on millions of Americans. My own health insurance premiums are set to double next year. And Republicans were unwilling to come to the table. They were unwilling to have a discussion. They were unwilling to make any progress. We just heard from all of the Republican nominees for the Republican candidates for Senate and from Republicans in the congressional delegation. They have no comprehensive plan to deal with this, and they are not taking any steps to actually bring down the price of health care.
Now, let me bring in Deanna on this because, as we knew that these were going to be expiring for a year. I know the Congressional Budget Office put out a note 2024 saying, hey, this is expiring.
Yeah.
Republicans are saying it's too expensive.
Yes.
It's a non-starter.
Yeah, so look, no one wants to have the government shut down at all, but Republicans have the right to say that we have to get a control on this frivolous spending. And that's what they did. And even like one of our congressmen said, the Unaffordable Care Act has become too expensive, so we need to make the market, open to smaller and medium-sized insurance companies so that maybe we could reduce those big company premiums. So I think that could be a good solution for us. But we can't just keep kicking the can down the road with the prices that we're spending.
When you are talking to Georgians in your reporting here, what are they telling you? A word we hear from a lot of folks, Republicans, Democrats, regular voters, is frustration. Is that what you're hearing too?
I would say frustration is accurate. I think especially from those furloughed federal employees that were going weeks without a paycheck. They really felt frustrated. And I think it came to a point where some of them didn't really care how we came out of this. They just wanted a way out so they could put food on their table. But I think there's also a lot of concern, especially from folks who are worried about their health care increasing. And I think some people are just bracing themselves for another potential shutdown once the CR ends.
We probably should have came to the table together, and have a bipartisan decision a lot earlier versus allowing, workers and, individuals who are trying to feed their families and work and get paid every day, and put them in between the issues that the government has. So it's a better solutions to proceed in that format. But
and Jake, as you weigh in here, I did want to also point to just get your thought process on politically, how does this play out? Obviously, John Ossoff, he is in a seat that Republicans want.
Democrats were willing to come to the table on day one on this. Democrats have been talking about this issue for a long time. Part of the initial entire point of the ACA was to control the mega corporations jacking up prices and to increase competition to bring them down. I don't think any of the members of Congress we played earlier understand the ACA, and I think Republicans are only now that it's a salient political issue talking about maybe we should do something about it, when in reality they were the ones funding the lawsuits for years to gut those very parts of the ACA that made healthcare cheaper to begin with.
We also saw during the shutdown some Republican infighting in the Senate primary. Derek Dooley accusing Buddy Carter and Mike Collins of being part of the government shutting down group in D.C. Is this a sign of more points of friction in this primary race?
I think it's going to be a competitive primary. I mean, we saw Mike Collins hit back on Derek Dooley about his voting record or lack thereof, and I think we can see more of that as the race continues.
I see a lot of heads nodding. I think that is something everybody on this panel can probably agree on. This primary race is just beginning. Our panel is going to be right back after the break. We'll see you then. Welcome back. While the shutdown is over, the healthcare debate at the center of it is not. The deal to reopen the government kicked any decision on addressing Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies to next month at the earliest. The Georgia Access Program is our state's version of the federal ACA exchange. It's open enrollment right now, and Insurance Commissioner John King, a Republican, leads the program. We asked him this week about how what is happening in Washington could impact people right here in Georgia. What do you think the impact would be in Georgia if these subsidies are not extended for the average ratepayer?
It is an average depending on your choice of insurance utilization. It's going to be about 23%.
An increase?
Yes.
That's substantial.
That's substantial. I'm completely worried about, because what we're worried is that young, healthy people will decide to walk away from the marketplace and just go use emergency rooms, which we all end up paying the most expensive, most inefficient way of getting health care delivered.
This subsidy conversation, it's still ongoing. Obviously, the government shut down. We're taping this interview on Thursday. It ended less than 24 hours ago on Wednesday. But the subsidy question was not resolved. The Senate says they're going to hold a vote on these subsidies in December. What happens in the House is an open question. Does Congress, in your view, have an obligation to extend these ACA subsidies?
I don't know if I'm torn, in all fairness, because I think about the people that don't have a lot of resources to buy insurance. I know the subsidies were put in as part of COVID. And so I realize that continuing to put a Band-Aid on a plan that a ship that's sinking is not a long-term solution. I'm interested in long-term solutions, and putting a Band-Aid on, let's just keep people for one more year. I don't think that's effective governing. I think I wish Congress would have done a permanent solution years ago instead of getting us up to the cliff. I'm just exhausted of the cliffs.
If the subsidies are a Band-Aid in your view, should Congress just rip the Band-Aid off and let those subsidies expire?
In all fairness, that's what they've done already. I mean, this decision should have been made 3 months ago, because the market opened November 1st. I had to publish the rates October 1st. And so even if the subsidies come into place, I'll have to turn around and jump through our agency. We'll have to jump through all kinds of hoops. I will have to bring carriers to republish rates. This is not as simple as turning on a switch. Members of Congress think that they have to December 31st to take action. This action should have taken place 3 months ago.
Who do you blame for this? Do you blame both Republicans and Democrats?
Right now, I blame everybody. I think this is my pitch to the Georgia legislature. bring control back to our state, because we couldn't get away with this in Georgia. Our legislature, our governor, myself, we would never do this to Georgia consumers.
King says last year about 1.5 million Georgians had a health insurance policy bought on the Georgia Access Exchange. He's urging people who are looking to renew their policy to take their time and look at their options closely, especially this year when their policies may have changed significantly compared to last year. So we are back now with our political roundtable, and let's start with this news that broke Friday about a new prosecutor in the 2020 election interference case here in Georgia. Pete Skandalakis, the director of the agency tasked with finding the replacement for the disqualified district attorney Fani Willis of Fulton County. Skandalakis chose himself to take over the case. Skandalakis has taken on high-profile cases in the past, and he says he is taking this one on because nobody else he contacted wanted the job. The case is still active. Skandalakis taking it over. It's still active for now. Sarah, what does this mean for the future of the case?
I think the future of the case is very uncertain. I mean, I noticed that Skandalakis said he had an 8 terabyte hard drive of material he had to go through. So that's going to take him a long time to be able to review all the material and make the decision he feels is best to move forward. I mean, he also took on a similar investigation into Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones last year and ultimately declined to charge him. So we'll see what he does this time.
And Deanna, I want to come to you here too, because a lot of people on the Republican side that says this case has no legs, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
He went to about 6 or 7 people to try to take this case on. Nobody wanted it. What does that say about this?
Well, a lot of conservatives think that this is an over-the-top political show. And I really don't think that we need to go back into the past of 2020. We just really need to move forward. Everyone wants secure and straightforward elections, but we also don't want the drama in the courtroom. We can do without that, honestly.
Jake?
Listen, Donald Trump made a call to election officials in Georgia, pressured election officials in Georgia to overturn a legally held election. As an American, I think all of us have to feel a degree of responsibility that there has to be justice served in this case. I don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but as an American, I hope that it happens.
Do you think Skandalakis brings that justice?
I don't know. I don't think he did a great job on the Burt Jones case. I think Burt Jones was very clearly involved in this. Burt Jones was a fake elector, and I don't think justice was served there. So I don't have a lot of faith, but we'll see.
And in fairness, yeah, I mean, Burt Jones isn't in the room, but he has maintained that he did nothing wrong here. The president has pleaded not guilty as well in these proceedings.
But he was a fake elector.
Well, Deanna, last word to you. We want to get a Republican perspective as well. Then we got to go to break.
Well, you know, I understand Democrats' personal view on this, but if Fani Willis never brought this to the foresight and wanted to hire her lover for an astronomical price point, we wouldn't be here today, honestly. And she did that to platform herself. Can you imagine how many people are sitting in Rice Street waiting for their fair day in court, and the Fulton County has spent millions of dollars on trying to figure this out, on top of, you know, her other, you know, Showtime cases that she's chose to do? I guess we just have to pick the right issues, and this isn't one. You know, we've got so much done and so many issues with the Fulton County Jail, and she's not helping us move that forward.
And Deanna, I hate to cut you off here. We should point out, too, because D.A. Willis isn't in this room either, but she maintained she did nothing wrong throughout this prosecution as well. A harbinger of conversations we're going to probably see continuing into the future. Our panel is wrapping up, but we will see you right back for more Georgia Vote on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Hey, welcome back. Well, it was quite the run. 238 years. We've dropped them in piggy banks, used them to buy bubble gum back in the day, and even dropped them into wells to make a wish.
But those days are over because the United States made its last penny on Wednesday. The Trump administration made the decision earlier in the year, saying for each 1 cent coin that is minted, it costs nearly 4 cents to make it. That's a bad math problem there. The U.S. Treasurer is former Georgia State Senator Brandon Beach. He was at the U.S. Mint on Wednesday to deliver last rites to the penny and explain why the government made the call.
The cost savings of ending penny production will save the American taxpayer approximately $56 million a year in just production cost alone.
There is still some good news for coin connoisseurs. The nickel, the dime, and the quarter, don't worry, they're still alive.
Okay, coming up next, our voice of the voter is making her mark in the beauty industry, but she's finding it hard to see beauty in politics. Welcome back. Well, this week, our Voice of the Voter takes us to Chambly, where we meet Brianna Kelly, the owner of Be Beautiful Medical Spa. Beauty is her bread and butter, but she explains what she's seeing coming from our elected officials, and that beauty might need a couple of beauty enhancements. So it's always a great day for a spa day. When I come in here, I just felt, oof, refreshed. Is that the vibe? Is that the goal here?
That is definitely the vibe and the goal at Be Beautiful Medical Spa.
Where are we right now?
So we're in Chambly, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, not too far. Just opened early March.
Is there a specific service, a very popular one that people are looking for?
Yeah, so our popular skincare service right now is our boardroom ready classic facial. It's just meant to get you event ready. Be Beautiful was curated off of my own personal preferences in terms of aesthetics, luxury design, as well as skincare. So when you go into my home, it looks like this. I use the skincare. I use the fragrances we have here. All of the skincare lines I personally use. So everything here was curated by my own personal preferences.
How would you say the elected officials in this area are helping you all? Or what more could be done?
Well, Chambly in specific, I will say they have a lot of events, which has helped my business a lot. The elected officials are important in terms of, you know, healthcare and in terms of small businesses, all of those things. So especially our local economy, if the economy is not doing well, then we can't do well as business owners. It's definitely a trickle down effect. You know, if they can't afford the services, then I can't afford to staff.
What would you say you're most concerned about right now?
I would definitely say healthcare. I'm definitely concerned about, you know, I'm from Philadelphia, West Philly, so, you know, my hometown, you know, a lot of them are on government assistance or, you know, they need that support, and it's affecting a lot of people in those communities right now. But overall, you know, I'm concerned about it all. It's all equally important for us to find balance.
On the opposite side of that, what are you most optimistic about?
I would say I'm definitely optimistic for the changes. You know, some changes good and bad. Just to see, obviously we're in a bad spot right now, so it's just I just feel like we can only go up from here, and we can only continue to hopefully see, you know, more positive impacts for our communities.
Yeah, she's hoping that the politics gets a little bit of a facelift.
That was good. That was a good line. On that note, thank you for watching us today.
We'll be back here next Sunday at 11 for another edition of The Georgia Vote. We'll see you then.